Welcome back to the Boomerang Podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Drew.
And today we have a very special guest in studio. We have Drew Hernandez, legendary podcaster, good friend of the show, and welcome to the podcast, Drew.
Thank you, guys. It's an honor to be here with you guys and to see you finally in person.
Finally.
Yes.
All in the same room.
Yes, thank you for
All
coming
in the
in.
same room. So I'm super
What a
stoked
treat.
for what we got today.
Yep. So we wanted to find out, because you were obviously one of the witnesses on the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. You have a background, obviously, in investigative journalism. You had some pretty humble roots. I mean, you started in where? Give us some background.
Yeah. So I just kind of like to start my political career journey. Kind of like the advent of Trump. You know, I became a Christian in 2012. And then when Trump came around 2015, I was really politically invested as a Christian, engaging the world around me with the Bible. But I really kind of had I would say my big red pill moment politically with Trump in 2015, 2016, because of both sides. You know, you had CNN, even Fox News. You had this whole fake news media cartel saying he's a white supremacist and a racist and he hates Latinos and Hispanics and all that. And my mom, my family fell for that crap.
Yep.
And, I would listen to what they were saying, and then I would watch his rallies daily. Everywhere he was traveling, I'm like, let me listen to what he's saying. Yeah. And the message Trump was preaching, was make America great again. We're going to bring this country back. Look where Obama's brought us. The deep state is real. Look at the shadow, globalism, everything just kind of really getting exposed, and then kind of bringing my Bible and kind of matching the world around me. But I would really say a bigger red pill for me, Trump, yes, but it was actually Hillary Clinton at the time because of her and in the WikiLeaks. Shout out to Alex Jones and everyone else that was involved with that. Because her whole rollout, similar to what Biden is doing now. I mean, that's the deep state. That's the shadow government.
It's real.
That's the New World Order. They have their replacement migration agendas, the whole 9 yards, right? Pretty much everything Biden is being used to do now is Hillary was going to roll out. And I remember hearing about it. And I remember watching Germany at the time and the open borders and all these, Islamic terrorists just pouring into the country, changing the demographics. And I remember hearing MAGA at the time talking about it, this is what they're going to do to us. And I just remember thinking well, dude, that's going to suck, dude. I don't want to see America turn out like that. And so I voted for Trump, and, it was probably one of the best votes of my political career so far. But that kind of really
be proud of.
It really opened me up to how bad things really are and how influential I could potentially be for my generation. Because then at the same time, you saw this wave post the election in 2016. You saw this wave. I think we kind of saw the monster finally come out in the universities, with millennials.
You were on the ground level. I mean,
yeah, the whole student, debt generation right now, just that have been infiltrated by communists and all these SJW, gay, whatever, on the campuses. That all came out after the election. They were the election deniers at first.
Right.
But, that started to happen. And I started kind of say well, where do I fall? Where, as a Christian, and I'm asking God, where, because I was a youth pastor at the time locally in SoCal, and, I was doing, what, I know God has called me to do, and I'm pouring into the community, pouring into the next generation. But I'm is there a little more? Because there's an urgency in my heart, because I see just how dangerous this really is. I mean, I'm a Christian. I believe in the reality of evil. I believe Satan is a real being. I believe, obviously, God, is real, and Jesus Christ is real. So all of this reality tied together, on my show, all my viewers hear me talk about the New World Order and the Antichrist. That's a reality.
It's a reality.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I see all of this stuff at the time, it really did light a fire under me. And I just was okay, what can I start doing now? So maybe around 2017-ish, late 2018, I started my own YouTube channel. I started doing what they call man on the street interviews.
Right.
I would go to the protests, the anti-Trump protests. and I would debate leftists and the SJWs and the fourth wave feminists, and I'd go one-on-one.
Just to prove they have no argument.
Yeah.
Or can you clearly give me an argument? Like, here's
Yeah.
your opportunity, you know?
It was so much fun. Like, I would drag my poor wife out there, and dude, we've been.
Was she the one filming? Was she the one?
Yes,
that was her.
There'd be times she'd be filming, and we've been attacked by communists in Los Angeles, like literally. And
it's dangerous. It's dangerous work.
I would always tell her, like, it's gonna pay off. I don't know how, but it's going to. You just gotta trust me, and it has. But I remember that was like my first step, and I would post it on Instagram, and I'd post it on YouTube, and it'd get like severely shadow banned. And then from there, I kind of led into doing like a podcast, similarly to how you guys are. You got to start somewhere, and I would just turn on the mic, turn on the webcam, and do a live stream or do a pre-recording, post it. People seemed to like what I had to say, and eventually it started to grow a little bit. And some organizations would take notice of me, various different ones like Turning Point, what's the other one? The Prager, all kinds. They would, reach out to me. Hey, you're young. Can you come speak here and do this? And so those opportunities started opening up. But I remember in 2019, when I got invited to the White House to meet Trump for the first time, and I was so happy.
God, that's so awesome.
It was crazy.
That's so awesome.
It was crazy because remember, my mom is anti-Trump. She believed the whole Trump said all Mexicans are rapists.
The TV told me he was bad.
Yeah, she believed that whole, and then like my whole family is, Latino. They're all on that wave, and here am I, a Trump supporter
in the White House,
getting involved. I'm like, hey, mom, I got invited somewhere, and
that's amazing.
I want to let you know. And she's like, oh, where are you going, honey? I was like, I'm going to the White House. She's like, what do you mean you're going to? I was like, oh, Trump invited me to the White House. And it was for Hispanic heritage. So she was like, oh, well, I don't know what to say about that. And my mom has been so red-pilled over the years. It is insane, dude. She's come
around.
Dude,
180, huh?
Okay,
she's sending me videos of like the New World Order.
Now she's doing the research for you.
And the CCP and all, like, whoa, I didn't know that. But, so yeah, I kind of, I got to meet the president, and at the time we thought Mike Pence was cool, but I got to meet everybody in the White House, and I got more involved. I started getting more connected, like actually connected politically, not just social media, meeting people, making connections.
Probably a lot of people there like you.
Yeah, my name getting out there.
I imagine you get a lot of inside information too, because there's only so much, like we can get just scrolling through X or,
Absolutely.
So it's like you're talking to the real people who are doing the same thing that you are under, and you can kind of network and, just add a little bit more like, holy crap, like you said, I didn't know that happened before,
Yeah, and people start to, because that's what they've been doing the past few years, is like isolating you to believe that I don't even like saying the silent majority anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, is that a psyop too to get me to think that I'm the minority in my country when in reality I'm actually the majority. I am the majority, and they're attempting to suppress me and us. So it's weird when you think about it, but. Yeah, I remember at the time I was really starting to get involved. Like I'm in DC. I'm like, I've never even been here before. My first time in DC was going to the White House. It was great. Shout out to Trump, dude. You know what I mean? Like I was happy.
That's awesome.
I was like, Mom, I'm just a Latino kid from SoCal in the White House, But so that kind of like got me involved, meeting all kinds of people, politicians, political commentators, media figures. But then COVID came, and that kind of put a halt to everything. But I was covering some of the anti-lockdown protests in like Sacramento and SoCal, and was posting the content, and the amplification of the shadow banning and the censorship was rising. I mean, they deplatformed Alex Jones, Laura Loomer, Milo Yiannopoulos, Nick Fuentes came, and they just across the board, you started to see it everywhere, and then even my account started really getting hit and decreasing. So you started to see all this happening like in unison at once.
Was it like a slow drip for you, or did they just cut you off?
It was a slow drip. It was once I started really like going like banger after banger, viral after viral. Like it was like, okay, now they start to take notice that people are coming to you now. And that's when they start to like hit your accounts.
Oh, this guy's dangerous.
I never got like deplatformed like all those other guys I mentioned. But my accounts have been hit pretty hard. However, but then after COVID, that's when George Floyd came. And this is when things changed. Because after George Floyd, in my opinion. I mean, even the coroner's report,
overdose.
Overdose.
Yeah.
It's fentanyl.
Fentanyl Floyd.
It's like
Straight up.
100,000 other Americans every year.
Straight up. You know, the American people got psyoped, just like fake news always does. They only release like the last 13 seconds.
Of course, yeah.
What was it? I don't even remember.
Yeah, you miss everything,
it was like
right?
9 seconds or something. But they didn't release the full body cam footage till like a year and a half later.
Once everybody had their opinion set.
Right. And once after the riots, you know, so it literally set the world on fire. And I'll never forget it. I remember,
Kenosha.
hearing my friends. No, the first one was in June when they were rioted in Minneapolis. I wasn't there, but they started in Los Angeles too. So I was like, whoa.
I remember that.
So now this is in California. It was Beverly Hills. I'll never forget it. My wife and I went. I took my wife to a riot. Dude, isn't that crazy? I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Because
we need to go there. This is happening. Like,
we were used to protests.
Yeah.
And the media at the time was saying, "Oh, George Floyd protest," and that's all I heard. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know, and I was like, "Well, let me go see." This is what started my on the ground reporting of the riots.
Okay.
Because they were saying fiery but mostly peaceful.
Right.
They're
Like,
peaceful.
what's that mean?
So I was like, "Well, let me go there and like check this out for myself."
Mm-hmm.
We show up in Beverly Hills, and dude, it was like. Not even exaggerating. It was like World War Z. It was like one of those like
anything but
like
peaceful.
Some doomsday movie. I was like, this is like everything I've ever been waiting for as a kid. Like as a kid, I'm like, I've always wanted to live in a doomsday scenario. But
right. There you
I
go.
didn't want it to be like this.
Yeah.
But that's the psychotic part of my brain. And my wife hates that I'm like that. But we show up because we were used to covering protests. I was like, we're going to go film. Maybe we'll interview some people. But we show up. LAPD's out there. They're shooting 40 millimeter rubber bullets at these people. They're incinerating police cars.
Yep.
And, buildings are being, smash and grab, Rodeo Drive. And I couldn't cover it to the full extent that I wanted to because my wife was there. And I was like, my mom's texting me. She's like, you can't have your wife there. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right, Mom. I think I'm going to listen to you on this one. So we went back home and it was crazy and it didn't stop. It was happening everywhere. And then it was like consistently every weekend, every other day. The next big one that I covered in California was Santa Monica. And me and a buddy, this was the genesis of this OTG riot reporting. I took a 4K Sony camera in the middle of a riot. I just like, now that looking back, I'm like, what was I thinking? Dude, we show up to Santa Monica. There's cops everywhere. They're flying up and down the boulevards. It's just like I'll never forget. My buddy and I, we walk into a Save-On, or it was a CVS. Now they're Save-On. Now they're CVS's. Totally obliterated, shattered windows everywhere. We walk in, everything's looted. I'm sitting there filming with my buddy. We're looking at each other like this, how is this happening, dude? And then I'll never forget it. We leave the CVS and I look across the street and I see smoke coming out of the top of it was like a Ralph's. And I'm like, dude, we should go over there and see what's going on. He's like, all right. And I'm not exaggerating. While we're walking, all these businesses are getting looted. Jewelry stores and
free for all.
Everything, footwear stores, you name it. So we're walking. I got like a $1,200 camera with a tripod. I don't know how I had to get robbed, dude.
Yeah,
straight
they're
up.
stealing $50 shoes. You know?
Yeah,
they won't
dude. I'm
hesitate
like,
to take
man,
the
God
camera.
must have really been with me. That was the beginning. But we go in, and I still have the footage to this day. Like, it's like a movie. You walk in, there's people coming out with shopping carts packed with liquor and food, and everyone's screaming and laughing and looting everything. And I'll never forget it. That night, that's when they started it was the COVID curfews on top of the police calling unlawful assemblies because of the riots.
Right.
So a lot of the times I would get stuck. This was the first time I got stuck because if I went outside, I'd get arrested. And one of the business owners, she was crying, and we were like, "Hey, can we stay here? Because if we try and walk back to our car, we're going to get arrested. And she was like crying. She's like, like she was Asian, straight up. She was like Japanese or Chinese. And she was like, I don't understand why they're doing this. I've always been a supporter of, LGBT. She listed the whole thing. She's like, I've always been a supporter, especially of Black people, and a supporter of like minority rights and civil rights. Why are they doing this? What do I have to do with George? Like, I'm talking like bawling, crying, because they
It's her livelihood.
destroyed her business. And I remember sitting there and looking at my buddy, thinking to myself, there's something way more going on here than just George Floyd.
Right.
Tied in with the COVID and the lockdowns, with the mass fear hysteria. And now we got some mass destabilization. Not only are they shutting down businesses, they're using Antifa and Black Lives Matter to physically destroy the buildings now. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I get chills talking about it, because like I was like living it. You know what I mean? Like sitting there in the midst of it with police and a woman crying, and I'm watching BLM incinerate buildings, thinking to myself, someone's pulling these strings. Like this
Organized
is,
crime.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and
Soros operatives.
yeah. So that was like the beginning. And, a lot of that footage didn't go viral. I was still unknown. But then, I don't know if you guys remember, Chaz happened.
Yes.
That's
Seattle.
when I remember my buddies hit me up. They're
So
like,
stupid.
this is when I got introduced to like Andy No and
Okay,
Richie
yeah.
McGinnis from the Daily Caller and Jorge Ventura, all the Riot Squad OGs that people, if I
Right.
named them, they would. Elijah Schaefer was always a good friend. But this is when I met everybody for the first time. And some Daily Wire, everyone was there. Jack Posobiec, that's when I first met Jack Posobiec for the first time. And I remember my buddies were like, hey, dude, do you see what's going on in Chaz? Like they literally locked down like blocks, and they got armed guards. It's Antifa, it's BLM. They're like, it could be pretty good footage. What do you think? I was like, I just told my wife, I was like, I just feel like I should do this, And I went, dude. I went to Chaz undercover. I've never done anything like that in my entire life. I was there for like 4 days undercover. We filmed the attacks on the preacher, the famous viral footage of the preacher getting dragged out while he's
Yep.
preaching the gospel. The shootings that took place, the multiple assaults inside. We were documenting everything for like 4 days. My buddy got attacked. I know Jack Posobiec wrote that in his book about my buddy Kalen getting attacked in Chaz as well. But that was weird, dude. That was
It's foreshadowing of what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yes, that's how I felt. I like the whole 4 days I was there. I was just thinking to myself, this is like a prototype of what they want to do with the entire world, not just the country, but the entire world. Like this millennial utopia. I know Tim Pool called it like the LARP farm. They were trying to farm and all that. Like it was comical when you were there. Like it was such a millennial thing, dude. Because like you walked in and they got like little like snack granola bar stations and Capri Sun. I'm serious, dude.
Lunchables.
Yes. And I'm just like, it was so insane. And I remember dude, I'll never forget, man. It was like me, Jorge Ventura, Kalen, all of us. They were like hunting down like these Proud Boys, because these Proud Boys came in and they were marching with an American flag. Shout out to Katie Davis Court with Post Millennial. That's when I first met her too. And they walked in with an American flag, and like moths to a flame, Antifa it was like a mob. And I remember they were chasing them throughout the entire city, and we were just following them with our cameras. And the Antifa guys, they were all strapped up, armed up. And I remember we documented the whole thing. That was super viral footage. And I remember at that time, I remember thinking to myself, well, it's dangerous. My wife hates it. My mom hates it. But I'm a Christian, and I see that God is like putting me in places that I know a lot of people may not ever get to see at the time, because you have fake news, you have CNN,
Right.
Fox News wasn't reporting on it accurately. Like no one was doing this.
Like, let me show you what's really going on.
And it
You're
wasn't
probably-
about it wasn't about the views, it wasn't about the clout, or it was like I really feel like my country is being lied to right now. And my only avenue was Twitter. That's all I had. And so I just kept doing that. There were various other ones. I went to like New York, and Portland was popping off.
Yeah.
Portland, it right in front of the federal courthouse. You know, that's when I started really making noise with Antifa, and they started identifying who I was because I was going viral footage after viral footage of, you know, them rioting, you know, committing acts of arson, literal domestic terrorism, dude. Like
They try to lock those police officers
Yes.
in the precinct and set it on
burning
fire.
down precincts, federal buildings with people.
Nuts.
with
And then you have the
humans
news
inside
hiding
of
it. The
them.
mainstream media, they're hiding this mostly peaceful, all this stuff. So why it's so important to have your take on it and you be there. It's like show everybody like this isn't peaceful protest.
And that's when it started becoming a problem, because it was going like we became the news,
Right.
You know, and I didn't intend it to be that way, but at the time we became, well, this is what's going on. Don't listen to CNN. Don't even listen to Fox because they're not even there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that started to build Portland, and then that's when Antifa started to kind of like, I was on the radar, and every time I was out there, they were looking for me, and they were calling out my name and following me and confronting me and getting in my face. And there were times like where I would really have to like evade out of there because, you know, with police like right there, because
were they handcuffed? You know, a lot of these times, you know, I always felt like I'm like they're being handcuffed and not being able to stop these riots, or you know what I mean?
You mean the police officers?
Yeah, they're getting orders from the top.
Absolutely,
you know?
yeah.
Just like letting
don't
it
do
happen.
anything.
Yes, to this day, I was always in contact with police officers in Portland because they love me. Like I became like a unofficial kind of point of intel for them.
Yeah.
Like they would hit me up like, hey, this is what's going on, dude. Like, you know what I mean?
Get it out there,
I'm
please.
just out here. I think this is wrong, and I'm just going to let you know as a citizen. It got so bad where Antifa was, they were putting in Freedom of Information Acts to find out if I was a Fed or not, if I was working for because I was so good.
Yeah.
Because I was so good at like getting behind the scenes.
Like, who is this guy?
And exposing them
Pastor.
like legitimately. Like I had my undercover cams, my technology, and every time I was exposing like their operations. And that was funny. I remember my wife was like, dude, these people think like you're that good. She always laughs at me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? She's just like,
maybe I am that.
Maybe
good.
I am, but yeah, so Portland, that was when I really started to get on the radar. My first invitation on television was because of a huge story that we broke.
Was that Tucker?
Yeah, with Adam Hayner.
Right.
Remember the field goal kick? That dude
Yep.
kicked him in the head. My buddy recorded that. But we recorded like the whole context because Antifa tried to flip it that night. So we were there to kind of provide what really happened with video documentation. And yeah, that was my first invitation on TV. Tucker's. I remember I got home. My hair was dyed at the time.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, it was like just.
I was
like,
almost thinking of doing that today. Just
it was like Blink 182, Tom DeLonge.
It was cool.
Yeah, you know, but I did that because
to change up everywhere you go, so it's hard to identify.
Yeah,
I imagine,
exactly. So because what they were doing is whenever Antifa's crazy, dude. Like they would demask people if they thought someone wasn't who they claimed they were. Take off your mask. Let's see who you are.
Yeah.
So I was always preparing to have a completely different identity if I got demasked, because they would be looking for a certain image of me if they pulled up a photo or whatever. So I would change my voice. I would change the way I would walk. I could see why they probably thought I was a Fed, because I was doing I had cops, dude. I had cops hitting me up asking me like, who taught you how to do all this? And I'm like, who taught you, you have no law enforcement background. Like who taught you how to investigate? Who taught you how to maneuver? Who taught you how to? I was like, dude, I just do this, dude. Like I kind of have a weird, I guess like growing up in SoCal, we were like very mischievous, staying up to like 4 a.m, toilet papering houses, like getting into chaos.
Back in the good old days.
So like it kind of like there was a part of me that came out during those riots, but it was like towards Antifa, and like exposing them with whatever technology I can get my hands on. So I don't know, maybe that's where it came from, but or it's just a gift, a talent. But yeah, I remember that's when they really started getting pissed off, because now it's all over Tucker. My first invitation on television, I remember I got a text message like, this is Tucker Carlson's producer. We'd like to invite you on the show because of the story you broke last night. Could you be in Orange County at our studio by 4:30 p.m. or 5:30? Yeah, 4:30 p.m. tonight. And I showed it to my wife. I was like, do you think this is real? Because like I was getting so many fake emails because this was like worldwide footage. And I remember texting him. I was like, yeah, that'd be cool, but like, are you real?
You need some kind of verification,
Yeah,
you know?
dude, I'm just a dude from I never had any intent. Like your first time going on TV, and it's the biggest primetime network television show ever at the time.
Is this real?
And I'm just like, are you real? And he's like, Drew, we love your work. Tucker loves your stuff. We would like you on tonight. And the hair situation, like, dude, I was like, really, man? So maybe it's just like God like humbling you, you know, because you're like, to kind of not let it get to your head. Because the whole time I'm worried about, dude, I look like I came out of
was gonna take me seriously.
I like a Blink video in 1993 or something. You know, here I am in 2020 on TV.
So funny.
But yeah, so that's how that happened. And then from there, it just didn't like that really made the establishment of kind of like where I am today. But and then there was various other riots in New York and other ones in Portland. But then that led to Kenosha, and Kenosha was what changed my entire life forever, for many reasons. Because I was in Chicago the weekend before, or a few days before Kenosha, because Kenosha went down on a weekend. And I was in Chicago. We thought there was a riot about to break out in Chicago. So we were out there. We were, documenting what was going on with Lori Lightfoot with some friends. And I remember sitting in my hotel, and out of nowhere, I'm looking at my Twitter feed, and I'm seeing, Kenosha, it's getting lit. The police are out here. They're on the freeway. It was all like writing, and no one was really out there yet that I saw. And I remember there was this, I don't know who it is to this day. I remember DMing him, and I'm like, hey, I saw that this is going on in your city or your town. Is it for real? And they're like, dude, they're on the freeway. Someone just threw a brick at a police officer's head. This something's gonna happen, dude. I don't know whoever that is, dude.
Yeah, wow.
Shout out to you. And I remember I was supposed to fly home the next morning, and I was still working, at a church at the time, and I had to be back for my job. And I remember praying, and I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna roll the dice here, and
You drove up.
I'm gonna go. No, I didn't. So this is during COVID, and it's 11 p.m. at night in 2020 during lockdowns in Chicago, leftist Chicago. Okay, so I'm like, I'll give it a shot. Kenosha's like an hour away. I call an Uber, dude, and I got an Uber. I don't know how, but
it's a ballsy Uber driver.
Yeah, and she was like a really based Christian black lady.
Nice.
And she's like, you're not gonna kidnap me, are you, honey? 'Cause, bro, I'm dressed in full riot gear, like ready to go down. You know what I mean? I'm like, she's like, you're not gonna kidnap me, are you, honey? I'm like, no, there's these riots.
What kind of party are you going to?
I'm a reporter, and I think it's gonna go down in Kenosha. She's like, well, I'm watching you. I'm just letting you know. I was like, hey, I'm a Christian too. I had a really good conversation with her, and if I ever got to meet her again someday, I'd love to, because it's because of her. She literally her ride made my career.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about God and family, and almost kind of made me forget what was going on. And I show up, and I showed up to the neighborhood where Jacob Blake got shot that night, and so no one was there. There was just a couple people there, left over. But they had already marched to the courthouse where it all went down.
Right.
But I showed up to the neighborhood where he got shot. So I was like, I don't even know where I'm at. So I show up, and there was like a journalist there and a couple neighbors. And dude, I've never told my mom this, but these gangsters, like, it was a hard neighborhood, dude. Like, these gangster dudes, they're rolling in their car, like these two gangster dudes in the front, and they were strapped for sure. And they had their kid in the back, and they're rolling back, and they're like dogging me like this, and they're rolling by, and I'm staring at them, because I was thinking to myself, well, should I ask these guys for a ride? And like, I think they thought I was dogging them, like, because they gave me that look, you know what I mean? I was like, and they're literally driving like, hey, and they stop. I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Dude, I'm from Cali. I know not to do that. And then they roll back. They're like, what's up? I was like, hey, you guys going to the riot for Jacob? And they're like, yeah, you want to ride? I was like, yeah, let's go. And these dudes took me to the riot, bro. I get in their car, their kids in the back. It's all ghetto. I'm like, it was crazy. And I have the footage to this day on my body cam because I was like, oh God, I hope I don't get shot.
Yeah.
And then
lower intestinal fortitude there.
Yeah, they drove me there. And then, dude, it was like, again, like a movie set. We show up. The dumpster's already, the dumpster truck's incinerated on fire, and we couldn't drive any longer. And I was like, hey, guys, thank you. I'm going to get out right here. I'll see you guys over there. Like, all right, for sure. We'll find some parking. So I just got the hell out. And I just started documenting. That night was like, that maybe started at like maybe 12:30 at night. And my night did not end till like 6:30 in the morning. It was just boom, riot. The whole thing. It was like they incinerated the whole town. They broke into multiple buildings. They robbed multiple buildings. They burnt down car dealership. I documented the majority of everything. And I was one of the first and main reporters on the ground that night that broke that entire story. And that was like worldwide, and it changed my entire life. I'll never forget. I remember I was so tired, and I took a picture. I still have it to this day. I took a selfie in the burning car dealership behind me. I took a selfie. I'm like, I'm never gonna, this is crazy. I took a selfie, and I just to save it, and it's a picture that I'll never forget. I remember at 6:30 in the morning, I called an Uber to go back, and I fell asleep in the Uber, and then I went into my hotel, fell asleep again, and didn't wake up till like maybe noon. And my life, the old whatever was going on, like that was done. Yeah. This whole new
chapter.
This whole This whole new chapter just kickstarted. It was I was getting hit all over the world, like everywhere, Oh my, what did you see? What was everyone was hitting me up, and it really did change absolutely everything, my whole life. That was night one of the riot, and again I go on Tucker and break it, and but that's when it happened. A couple more, and because obviously everyone comes the next couple days. All the other reporters came night two. They rioted.
By proximity, you have to be close. Who the hell spending time in Kenosha?
Did you see Kyle Rittenhouse that night?
No. So this was night 3.
Okay.
Right. So night 3, I didn't go night 2 because I was doing Tucker. Because I woke up, I'm like, I'm not going back. I'm just gonna go and talk about this on Tucker. I broke the story. You know what I mean? So after that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back, and that's when Kyle showed up. I don't think Kyle was there night 2. You'd have to ask him that if he was or not. But when I showed up night 3, that's when the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing went down, because it was the police. I watched the police that night. I watched them show up to buildings getting lit on fire, pull up to buildings getting broken into, sitting there and just turning around and driving away. It just, I don't know what was going on. I can only assume they were being told to stand down at the time based off of what I was observing that first night. That's what I saw that night.
We don't want to incite violence. Like, yo, look around.
They just allowed it. They just, for whatever reason, and this is a little town. Kenosha's this little.
Never heard of it.
Dude, it looks like a movie set. Like when I go back to this day, I'm like, this is like, it's so small. The gas station looks miniature. It's like really weird.
It's like, why there of all places?
I don't know to this day. The feds probably know, but that's when night 3, the whole Rittenhouse thing went down, and I documented that whole night, and the rest is history there. And I documented Kyle shooting and killing in self-defense Joseph Rosenbaum that charged him from behind because they were not trying to have a conversation. They were going to, in my opinion, they were going to kill that kid, dude. Yeah. Like for sure, because they were looking for blood. And
you can clearly see the footage of that guy right beforehand.
The whole night.
That guy was looking to kill somebody.
The whole night, dude. The whole night. That guy. Yeah, he's pushing incinerated dumpsters towards police vehicles and gas stations.
Scumbag.
Yeah, dude. So scumbag. And I documented the whole. I had it all on camera. And after that happened, Kyle blows up, and he's all over the internet.
And your footage became very important.
Eventually
getting him off the hook.
Yes.
And rightfully so.
Mm-hmm. So like that happens, tail end 2020, August, end of August. whole year goes by, and you know, the trial starts to develop, the charges start to come, and Kyle's life gets put on the line, and it becomes a world story. And you know, at first I was thinking to myself, do I want to get involved with my footage knowing what I know? Am I going to be effective? That was the question that I was asking myself,
Right.
you know, because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not familiar with law or etiquette or anything like it. Knowing me, I can come in and think I'm saying the right thing and end up, you know, putting this kid in jail.
Right.
Like that was always my fear, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So no, when it came down to the trial, I remember, you know, the lawyers were reaching out to me like for a while, but I was just kind of praying, thinking about what I wanted to do. And actually both sides were reaching out to me. The prosecution, they were reaching, they were like, oh, can we see your footage? Can you help? But like, so both of them. And I was like, you know, what do I do here, God, you know? And so when the trial started, that's when I started to see where this was going. You know, I started to see the truth wasn't coming out in the trial. It wasn't at all. Obviously, Kyle's side, his defense, they were putting up the best defense that they could at the time. But
Right.
whenever I would hear witnesses come in and say something, I'm like, that's not true. That's that.
Yeah, that one guy is just a total liar.
That's not the narrative. That's why when I went in there, I made sure to tell the truth about everything, every aspect of what happened that
Minus
night.
the bias. It's
Everything.
Like, this is what happened.
Just this is what happened. It was a riot. It was 2020. This was the context of the night. This is what I saw. This is what was happening. This is what I saw Kyle do when I was there that night. This is what I saw Joseph Rosenbaum do when I was there that night. And yeah, the rest is history, man.
Yeah, that one Antifa kid was just looking for a payday.
Yeah,
right.
probably.
The one who said he had to admit in court, he had to say, yeah, I did point a gun at him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what a scumbag.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people use the opportunity as a opportunity for, you know, clout and career changers on both sides. And I just remember, because I'm the type of person, and maybe this is why I do so well with podcasting or whatever, is I'm reactionary. And so when I see something, I react to it. And if it's something that I feel is wrong, I react to it very aggressively and passionately.
Yeah.
And because I guess I'm like an orator and I articulate my thoughts well, it just comes off and it like hits and it connects with people that feel the same way. And that's essentially what my show is.
Yeah.
You know?
And you do a great job of it.
Yeah, people see the sincerity of your
so
point
this
of view.
situation was that.
Right.
It was that. It was me sitting at home watching what they were doing to Kyle, watching the narrative that was being put out there, and me telling my wife, that's not true. And she's like, well, then you got to go down. You got to go down. You got to go clarify some things,
right,
because you're the only one probably on planet Earth that can go down there and actually do it. And then when I thought,
give the full picture.
when I thought to
exactly
myself,
what happened.
like, that's reality. Like, I don't want clout. I don't, want that, really going on around me if I don't need it. But if this is a kid, this is honestly, and I've told him this, cause I was a youth pastor at the time. And I was like, this could have been one of any of our kids in the youth group, like his life on the line, and they want to lock him up forever, and over lies.
Over lies.
White supremacist. He came to kill black people.
Disgusting.
He murdered black people because he's, you know what I mean?
I'm trying to stoke it, keep it going.
I was like, no. So yeah, I went down there, and no one paid me anything. No one coached me anything. No one gave me a deal. No one said, if you come and do this, Kyle will always be there for, like, I never talked to Kyle beforehand. Only had maybe one or two conversations with his lawyers before. They didn't coach me or prepare me, didn't tell me what to say. They just wanted to know, like, the gist of, I was like, I'm just going to come and tell you guys everything that I saw. That's it. And give you all the footage that I have. And let the jury decide from there. That's all I feel like I need to do right now. And they're like, okay. And it blows my mind that they trusted me with that, because that could have meant life or death for Kyle. And
well, they're getting backed into a corner. You have mainstream media pushing a different narrative, right? And it's just like, Well, please, Drew, just give us the footage.
And that
just
trial,
tell the truth. You know, it's the only, really, probably the best chance.
And that trial literally was like a volleyball. If you guys remember, like it was just back and forth, back and forth. The defense came out with something, and then the prosecution came back, and it was like just like any other trial. But that one was just like, and the volleyball was Kyle. It was his life.
I love the when you were on the stand and they said, "Or are you calling these riots because of your politics?" And you said, "No, I'm calling them riots because they're riots."
They were riots.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what they didn't want. I know they did not. Kyle's team, the prosecutors, the media, they did not want that because they didn't want the jury, because theoretically the jury is supposed to come in unbiased, not having a fundamental understanding of the political aspects of what's going on and this and that. They're supposed to just ingest the facts and then make a decision based off of the facts that the court has taken in. So that's why I knew I needed to go in there and just submit those facts, because it wasn't me inserting a bias because I wanted the jury to have a certain bias. It was me inserting the truth about that night that led to those circumstances so they can have an educated decision, so they can make the right decision.
Right.
Whether that, like, I would have done the same thing if people thought to themselves, you know, well, it's only in favor of Kyle, or it's not in favor of Kyle. It was about just putting the truth in there. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
Like, so it's up to the jury. That's America. And so, that was my intention. And yeah, they went after me during that trial, but I just remember thinking to myself and like praying, because like, you know, my wife and I, we watch, you know, a bunch of movies, and like, we love lawyer stuff and interrogation videos, and, you know, and I just remember thinking to myself, you know, if all you do is tell the truth, then you're going to be okay. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, and praying through the trial, that's all I have to do. And, cause my main concern, like I said, is like saying the right thing with the right intentions, but the wrong way, and screwing this kid. Mm-hmm. That was my biggest concern, because I'm not a lawyer, you know what I mean? But it, you know, God was with me, and God was with Kyle, that's for sure. And it changed that kind of, and for me, just kind of like solidified, I think, my place, I guess, in the movement, or the, you know, the state of things.
Absolutely.
You know, because it
made a name for yourself.
And God made the name, you know, because I didn't plan any of that. Like, I can't, and I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to be like, I literally, when I walk through this story, the circumstances of being in Chicago, the circumstances of getting an Uber, the circumstances of the riot happening an hour away from me, the circumstances of getting a ride from some gangsters and not dying, the circumstances of actually getting through the riot and documenting it solo the way that I did, the circumstances of making sure I went back, not on the second night, but the third night when Kyle was there, and the circumstances of being where I was documenting when he shot Rosenbaum in self-defense and killing him, and that being a critical shot for the trial and test. Like, I can't.
You could have never planned that. Bro,
I don't.
I
like
something else.
When I talk about God with people, I'm like, dude, I don't know what else to tell you, bro. Like, I cannot explain that to you other than I'm a Christian. The Lord directs my steps. He knows my path. And that was always my prayer. I mean, it is to this day. But in 2020, I was just like, I had two prayers when I was on the ground doing that stuff. It was, God, make me invincible. God, make me invisible. And God, please just lead me directly where I need to be so I can show the world what's really going on here. Because I really felt and believed that this was like a time of darkness and lies, like a really saturated, you know what I mean? And so, and I always had this crazy idea, like what, like, you know, it's like what happens, God, when you kind of just like airdrop a Christian and it's into an environment like that? Like, what happens, you know? And that was the result. So
shine a little light on the situation.
Yeah. So that was, like I said, that changed my life. It changed everything. I've been blessed with a ton of opportunities to, you know, amplify what I've been doing and my platforms and my voice and my shows, and, you know, going on various other platforms and advocating for self-defense and, you know, the Second Amendment, and on behalf of, you know, what happened with Kyle in that vein of things. made a lot of great friends. I'm here with you guys now, and you know, it's a great encouragement. And I've always told people, because I remember when the verdict came, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, God, like we need a W right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
we need something, because the country's been locked down. They are removing Trump. Like, I could see it.
Yep.
You know, and I don't like saying this, but I remember like the little platforms that I had in like 2018, 2019. I was one of those crazy dudes that was like, Trump's going to lose. I was saying Trump's not going to win in 2020. Look what they've done with the Russia impeachment hoax.
Yep.
Look what they've done with the Ukraine hoax. They are not going to let this man win an election.
Then we saw the mail-in ballots.
They will steal this thing.
Yeah.
Steal it, yeah.
And I remember saying that like 2018, dude, I would
He didn't lose, they just didn't let him win.
Dude, yeah, that's what I meant, you know? I just remember I would lose that, but that was what I was going. I was like, they're going
And you were right.
They're going to rig it. And I would lose thousands of followers. You're not MAGA. You don't believe, you're not a true supporter of Trump. I was like, bro, like, I feel like his inner camp should be talking like I'm talking right now, because they should preemptively be getting ready for this steal, because they're going to do it.
Yep.
And they did it, dude.
They did it.
And I hate being right about that because of what it's done to the country. But the reason why I say that is just for me internally, I knew that was coming, along with the lockdowns, along with, you know, the mass formation psychosis and the downfall of what we're experiencing right now with the total saturation of woke and cancel culture, and the culmination of communism and globalism, all heading to where we're heading right now with the weaponized intelligence agencies. And I just kind of felt it. This is where it's going, you know? And I just remember that day of the verdict, I was like, God, we just give us something, you know, we need a one W, you know? And I feel like the country, the movement needed that. And I think God gave that to us, and obviously gave Kyle, you know, his freedom, because he rightfully, it was righteous, you know?
How good did it make you feel though, just to like have that weight kind of lifted off, to get that win, to be a part of that, to help Kyle out, and then to hear the verdict, you know? And
I thought of his mom.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I remember walking into the courtroom, and you know, I didn't look at anybody. I didn't look at Kyle. I didn't look at the jurors. I didn't look at the only time I would look at anyone is if they address me, right? The prosecutors, if they address me, I'm looking them right in the eye. You know, if the judge is addressing me, I'm trying to be respectful, you know? And, but I didn't look at his mom. I didn't look at anybody else, but I remember in the halls of the court, like during the breaks, she, you know, would walk by, because they, you know, outside the court, they had benches, and, you know, you had to sit there and wait. And I just remember seeing her, and just like on TV, that wasn't like scripted, you know, it looked like she's been crying, looked like she hasn't been sleeping in days. Like, she looked like that when she was there. And I just remember looking at her thinking like, damn, you know what I mean? Like this is crazy, you know, like I'm sure she never intended this happening, you know? And then you had right wingers calling her a crappy mom, because who the hell are you to let your kid out there with an AR? It's like, dude, like, that's how America was founded. Yeah, like, you had patriots that were out there with their teenage, preteen, young sons fighting. You know what I mean? You fighting redcoats and defending the country. That's what America is. Mm-hmm. That's what was, in my opinion, Kenosha was being attacked, bro. Like, that's why these dudes showed up. They didn't show up because they were just hunting black people. Right. They showed up because the police were not doing anything, dude. And so that's why I respect Kyle for that. I mean, I would do the same thing, dude. Especially if I was young, his age. I would protect my country in the midst of 2020. Yep. You know what I mean? So she was getting attacked on that front too. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, for mom, like, if that was my mom, like, I'm glad that she has this comfort that she's not going to lose her child forever to a prison cell. That's what went through my mind during the verdict when he was vindicated, you know, once and for all. So Yeah, and that was kind of like,
'Cause it just makes you think about your mom and like, wait,
Yeah,
how does she feel?
dude.
And like, yeah, she probably wasn't sleeping good, probably crying a lot, son's fighting for her life. So
Mhm.
that's an interesting take. And yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I just remember the outcome of that was just it weird stuff started happening. I'll tell you that, because like once you, and I always tell people, once you start getting to a certain, I feel like there's like an unofficial level. I don't know what it is, where you kind of get on their radar, like the deep state, the feds, you get on their radar, and I don't know what it takes. I don't know what it is. I just know after that, weird stuff started happening to me. I couldn't fly normally. I remember I got put on some kind of list where every time I would go to the airport, this was like months. I mean, months, like
Try to
just
restrict your movements.
months straight.
Will they stop you at like the TSA
Yeah,
station?
yeah. I could not get a digital boarding pass. They call it a quad S, which is like it's technically supposed to be a random security check,
Yeah.
right? But they use it when they throw you on a federal list, a Homeland Security or whatever. If they view you as a threat or whatever, that's the list you get thrown on. And so I remember after that trial, the first time I flew, I go to the airport and I had to go to the kiosk. I had to wait in that line, go to the kiosk, and then tell them, hey, my name's this. I'm denied. I can't even get a boarding pass. Like, oh, okay, wait here. And then they sit on the phone for like an hour with DHS. And then they tell you, oh, he's here. This is his name. Sir, can you give us your address? Sir, can you, like, all your information, everything. And they're like,
Maybe I'll take the train.
yeah. And they're
I'm out
like,
there.
after like an hour of waiting for approval, then they let you to the TSA gate and you have to wait in that line. And then they take you to your own special line. So when you go, they take you to your own special, process gate. So, and then they do a full pat down. They have to pat you like you're a terrorist, dude. They pat you down,
The
turn around.
weaponization of government.
And the whole
Yeah.
time you
And
feel
you're
like
living
being
it.
watched.
Oh, dude, I know.
Weird.
It gets weirder, And then so I do the full pat down. They swipe my hands for bombs. This was going on for months, dude. Every time I would fly.
Does it still go on today?
No, it just randomly stopped.
Good.
Okay.
It just out of nowhere.
Now you got to show up to an airport an extra hour early just to go through, hoopla.
Yeah.
two and a half hours early, dude, for every single flight home or leaving.
Yeah.
Every single flight. And it doesn't stop there. So once you finally get through TSA, they take your picture of your ID and they take your address and your phone number, and then they follow you around the airport. And then they take another makeshift pat down little, station
Mm-hmm.
in front of the actual gate of the flight, and the whole flight has to go through it because of you. But they don't tell the flight that it's you, but you're the last one that gets pat down.
So people
And
kinda
they do
figure it
this
out.
for every single plane you get on. So let's say I had a flight that had a connector. I'm flying to, I don't know.
Because you've already gone through security. You think you could just get off and
No,
you're already through.
if I'm flying to New York and I got a connector in Dallas from
Yeah.
Phoenix, right? I fly from Phoenix, got to do that whole process. I land in Dallas, got to do the whole process again at the connect flight, and then get on that flight, and then finally land in New York. And then on the way home, it's the same thing. This was going, bro. It was like, and this was after the trial. I had no idea. And like the TSA would come up to me and they'd be like, who are you?
Yeah, what'd you do?
Yeah, they're like, this is not a list that you want to be on. Like some of them seemed concerned, and I was like, I don't know, dude. I mean, you could Google me and you'll probably see some stuff
Yeah,
that
maybe
is not
connect the
true,
dots.
but you'll find out who I am. And they were just like, yeah, man, I would try and figure this out because this is not a list you want to be on. And weird stuff like that started happening. And I was getting phone calls from pastors that I'd flown out of the country years ago on missions trips. They hit me up, and I remember he texted me one day and was like, hey, just want to let you know, man, I got stopped by some random dudes. I was like, were they TSA? He's like, I don't know. He's like, they were just asking me a bunch of questions about you, and they were asking me,
That is so scary.
yeah, they were like asking me about, why did I travel the country with you in like 2017 or 18 it was. And he's like, I answered all their questions. I told him, you're a youth pastor and we did ministry. And he's like, before they left, I stopped and I asked them, like, why? You know, I know Andrew, he's a really good guy. He's a great guy. What is all this for? Is he okay? Like my buddy was concerned about me. He's like, is he okay?
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, and this is where it gets real for you. They responded and they said, well, we have reason to believe he's involved with right-wing domestic terrorism. And we just want you, to just, watch you and your family. And that's the meaning of all of this. And he was like, I told them that's not true. He was defending me. He's like, it's not true. I know him,
Yeah, I know this guy. Right.
And, but that was after the trial, all this started. And I don't know if they were doing that to like intimidate me, because nothing really came of it. It just kind of like was happening for like about a year and then stopped.
But they really looked into you. Just if anything was off,
they were looking.
They were looking.
That's
for a
what
reason.
my mom was like. They are investigating you for
anything, probably.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I'm not. Thank God. But I always tell people is I don't know what it takes to get on that radar, but when you do, that's when it starts to get
feeling.
That's when you start to ask yourself, okay, am I really about this?
How do I get off?
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of guys that have gone through worse than me. I mean, they put Owen Schroyer in federal prison.
Yeah,
right now, you know what I mean? Like,
wild.
Nuts.
Yeah. So like, it's just for me. It's like I look up to a lot of guys that have gone down that path, and then you start to identify like when people start to come to you and say, "Oh, you remind me of InfoWars or Alex Jones or Rush Limbaugh, or you're in that same vein," and you're like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, I'm glad that I'm kind of like,
hey, that's good company."
That's why they have you on.
Yeah, but like, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what does that really mean? Like,
Right.
What does my future look like? Because I'm not intimidated, but I look at their future. I'm like, guys like that are effective, and they get hit.
Yeah.
And I have conversations with my wife. I'm like, as Christians, persecution's going to come.
What are you willing to go through?
Like this is the life that I chose, and I think it's effective, and it has to happen. And I know God will always be with me, and I'm not afraid, but this is the current state of the union. It is, and I don't know. I just tell people like, just count. You got to count the cost, man, because when that stuff starts, and thank God it kind of led to nothing, but it just because you talk about like 1984, you talk about the shadow government, you talk about the deep state, you talk about like weaponized intelligence agencies, the CIA and Snowden blowing the whistle on the NSA, and then when you start to kind of notice things like, whoa, someone's like really surveilling my life here, like I have nothing to hide, but
it's a weird
damn,
feeling.
you know what I mean? Like, okay, here we are.
Imagine what like Julian Assange went through.
Exactly. I mean, well, yeah, look where he is today. Snowden too. I mean, whatever you think about Snowden, I mean, it's clear that the government got pissed and started hunting the guy. So you just got to kind of realize that the story is if you piss off the government, you're going to end up on a list.
Yep.
And I don't know. You're just in God's hands, like, and I'm not saying for being a bad person. I'm not saying for like committing crimes or I'm just, committing thought crimes. Like that's real, dude. Like that's what we're dealing with.
I mean, Owen Schroyer is in prison for speech crimes.
Yeah.
Right. They're trying to gag order Trump. I mean, it's obvious that this is what the government's doing. You just lived it.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I try to be like optimistic. I try to, keep faith and trust in God, but I also try to be realistic and biblical that, humanity does go through harsh times, especially when humanity wants to be disobedient to God.
Yep.
We're going to experience
Turmoil.
some turmoil, and I think America could potentially, head down a path like that.
Yeah, I think we are.
Yeah, we already are. And I don't know what the country looks like. If like by some miracle Trump wins this election in 2024, it's only 4 years. Like I don't know what the country looks like when he's gone. Like I see the turmoil, I see the disconnect, I see the division within, especially right now. I mean, if you look at the whole debacle with the next Speaker of the House,
right.
It's going to be a huge power vacuum, and I don't know what's going to like be the result of it. I I mean, you even look at the Republican primary right now, it doesn't look that great to me.
Yeah.
And they're already trying to take Trump off the ballot in Colorado.
Exactly. Like I mean, you had Vivek literally coming out and simping for college students for siding with Hamas in Palestine. And I told people, like, you just you don't have to like run and support whoever your favorite right-wing influencer is, like saying, I like them. You don't have to like just be the support, like just wait. And I say this to young people too, just wait and watch, give it some time, because time will show you what these people really believe. And I think we've seen that with Pence. We've seen that with DeSantis. We've seen that, God knows, Nikki Haley.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And now Vivek too. I mean, a lot of people were pissed when he came out and he was like, oh, you know, when you're in college, you believe stupid stuff. They're siding with Hamas and Palestine because they're just stupid and they don't know what they actually believe. Like, really, dude?
Yeah, that's great. And
really?
Next year they're going to graduate and then be coming into the corporations and the businesses, and you know they're not in kindergarten, right?
Mhm.
These are grown adults.
Yeah.
And they're paying a pretty penny for this education that's getting them nothing
Yeah.
other than turning them into activists.
No, I agree. So I am
They're brainwashed.
I'm, you know, we're in it. We're in it. I feel like leading into the 2020 election, I was kind of like praying and fighting for that platform to have that voice, to be necessary to speak to the culture and speak to, you know, the masses out there that feel like us, you know? And now that I'm kind of there, going into 2024, I'm just kind of praying and navigating, you know, where is my role? Because I have my full-time show,
Right.
but I still love being on the ground. Like, I know that's something that I need to be doing, especially during a presidential year. So I'm trying to find that, like, that heavy balance of, you know, where the future takes me. Because it's crazy hearing things like that when people come to you and they tell you, you remind me of this person, you remind me of that person. Like, these are like your heroes that you grew up listening to. And you're like, well, yeah, that's an honor that you consider me like in that class, but also what are the consequences going to be of that? And I'm not afraid of that, but at the same time, I do want to be myself, you know? So I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. Obviously I want to marry. If I would love if Joe Biden just like became a Christian today, got based and went full blown MAGA, like today. Right. Like, I'd be like, let's freaking go. Let's get this thing back, you know? But it's going to require someone like that. And I don't, there might be people out there, you know, and this is when I get to the question when people are like, well, are you going to run for office? Like, I don't know, man. There's two things like on my mind. Like, I would like to run for something someday, mm-hmm. or I would like to, you know, plant like a church network or something.
We had Gorka on, and I mean, that's essentially what he said. He's like, you know, you can complain so much, but essentially you got to go out and get involved, mm-hmm. right? And get involved in our government and make changes that way. So you should, you know, I think,
and it feels like the natural progression almost, mm-hmm. for me, because it's not about like going higher and higher and higher to like elevate your social status. It's just like, where am I most effective? That's my question all the time. And I'm always asking God, where am I more effective speaking into my generation on my nightly show? Am I more effective speaking to my generation, planning a church? Because I know what I'm gifted in, preaching and teaching the Bible. And I know that is seriously lacking in millennials right now. You know what I mean? So like, that's kind of where I'm at. Like right now, that's where I'm at, you know, and I'm working through it, but my show is turned into its own thing. You know, it's turned into this own thing, and it has its huge viewer base. Shout out to Rumble, you know, because if it weren't for Rumble, you know, YouTube, like, dude, I was on YouTube. At
their mercy, you know.
I was on YouTube for 6 years. It took me 6 years to get 70,000 subscribers. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but fighting all of the shadow banning and the deboosting and the suppressing, it took me 6 years just to get to that. And because of Rumble, we're at like 61K in just 11 months. So you can see, you could see there's like, oh man, if I had a fair shot on YouTube,
they weren't holding you back.
If I had a fair shot on YouTube, you know what I mean? But that's why they do it.
Yep.
That's exactly why they do it. And that's why I always feel like we're being psyoped to believe that, you know, you're a minority. You're the silent majority. It's like, no, I'm the majority.
I am the majority.
I am the majority.
You're
you know what
just
I mean?
you're just cutting it off.
You're just lowering the volume,
Yes.
dude, because you can.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm thankful. I'm super thankful for Rumble, because if it weren't for Rumble, I wouldn't really have a shot right now. And you guys,
Yeah, 100%.
and you guys for sponsoring the show, and all the viewers that support Midas Skull Group as well. But so yeah,
I know it's important to us that we align ourselves with like-minded people,
Mm-hmm.
because we're in the same boat as you. We think alike. We're super, Christian conservative here, and I think that's why, your viewers resonate with us and vice versa.
No, absolutely. And I think that's, I don't know. I appreciate when it comes to news, people saying, I'm unbiased. I'm just telling you what happened. I'm telling you the facts. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, but when it comes to like cultural commentary, or it comes to engaging the culture, like you're engaging communist thought, you're engaging socialist globalist thought, you're engaging this corporate sexually depraved mindset and everything. Like, dude, you can't be this like, I'm just down the middle, like, no, dude,
No.
you got to pick a
Pick
side.
a side.
It's good or evil, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
stand for something or fall for everything.
exactly. When it comes to the news and you're just reporting what happened, yes, okay, be down the middle and give us the facts. But when it comes to like, I feel like that's a cop out. I feel like people that take that mindset and then say they're engaging the culture are probably just like controlled opposition, because you cannot be in the middle, especially when we have groomers out there and we have this whole like homo imperialistic agenda out there that's targeting children, that's decimating traditional values, biblical values, sick people. Like, you can't, whether you're Christian or not, you got it. Like, at some point you got to choose a side, dude. You know what I mean?
You gotta get your head out of the sand. And, I think a lot of people, they hear these things going on and they just don't want to be involved. Right. And they just think it's going to work itself out. And, I'm not going to touch on this or touch on that. Well, a couple of years goes by and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I think we need people to call out and challenge these crazy, whether it be communist ideas or Marxist or child grooming, like people got to stand up, especially for your own kids. Like if you don't get involved at that point, like what would bring you in,
Well, that's the natural progression of evil. Is it targets
try to destroy
innocence.
the family, the nuclear family, right?
Yep,
That's what they try to take away.
It'll target the innocent, and the most innocent in our civilization will always be children.
Yep.
It'll always be babies, and that's why they are going directly towards them. But they do it with a smokescreen, like, well, we're just trying to raise the next generation to be tolerant and not commit suicide because they know that they live in a society that will accept them now.
Yeah.
It's not how it works, dude.
Evil under the guise of tolerance.
Yeah.
Sick.
Exactly.
Sick. Well, anything you want to add?
When did you move from LA out to Phoenix?
So that was after the Kenosha incident, riot, at the end of 2020. My wife and I knew Trump. I knew they were going to take it. I knew it. I knew it.
So it's like you just want to get the hell out of California.
I was like, we're out of California.
We did the same.
This is pedophile land.
Yeah.
Dude. You know what I mean? I cannot raise a child here. Like, I'm so for fighting and holding down the fort and holding down the line. But when I think about my kid that, my wife and I are, soon to be working on, I feel like I need some ground. You know what I mean? I
can't be in enemy territory the whole time.
I need some distance between me, before it really gets to that point. I mean, it is. I mean, here we are in Arizona, and Katie Hobbs is installed, and you can't run forever. And I'm not running. I would like, some distance.
Nice to have a home base
to raise my kid and start engaging, but.
It's exactly how it was for me, Drew. I was actually living in California with them, moved up to San Francisco. So in Oakland when all the riots were happening there, and I remember standing on like the rooftop of our apartment complex looking down, and helicopters flying over saying, get off the roof. And, they're boarding up all the windows the day before. And just, the favorite restaurants I'd like to go to are getting closed down. I drove down to Southern California, tried to go to a bar with my friends. They were requiring the vaccine passport, and I'm just thinking like, this is crazy. And so 2021, April, me and my wife, but my girlfriend at the time, come down to Sedona. Nobody's wearing a mask. The restaurants
Yep.
are open. People are normal. And I'm like, it's like a whole nother country over in California right now. It's wild.
Yeah.
You know, we never got the clot shot, and like my baby's not involved with that at all. Now she's 15 months, but we came down here for the same thing. Like hopefully have a little bit more like-minded people around, a little bit more freedoms, and enjoy life. And no way in hell I'm starting a family in California after seeing all that. And just how could you even send them to school? At this point I'm almost like, and you might consider it too, it's I'd love to be able to have a great school to send them to, but I'm totally happy having my wife like homeschool.
Yeah.
Just so I know what the information they're getting. I mean, you can't even trust a kid's library anymore.
No.
It's pretty wild.
No.
Anywhere you go.
No, and California is like openly, like straight up legislatively, we will take it is child abuse.
Yeah. We own your child.
Yes,
the child is of the state.
It is child abuse. We will take the child if you don't accept their self-identifying pronouns. Like that's like
madness.
That's a death sentence, dude. Like
madness out there.
Yeah, like I can't have a kid in that kind of environment. I mean, ultimately, no matter what, if the country ends up in a position like that, we're gonna always have to fight. But I don't know. My wife and I, we prayed about it, and we felt more comfortable just coming to Arizona and holding the line here. And it's been
I feel like
great.
we all felt that effective. Same thing.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. We're all here.
No, for real. That's exactly how we felt. And
it's great people here. I like the people.
No, seriously, because like growing up in California, like everyone's just like to themselves.
There's no community. There's no sense of community.
I'm introverted, but like I understand Cali culture, where like when someone comes and says, "Hey, how are you?" Or like you go to the grocery store and like, "Hey, you having a nice day?" And you're like,
people like, take back.
What do you want something from me? You're trying to sell something to me? Like, what's wrong with you?
I don't have any money on me.
Like, hey, dude, I gotta go. Like it's this weird California attitude. And like when we came here, when we'd go to the grocery store and like the old ladies and stuff, and people are like, "Oh, hey, good to see you guys. You guys are here again." I'm like, "Is this normal?"
Yeah,
It's
like it's culture shock.
More of a local. It just feels like more of a community.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Whereas, a lot of California is just so transient. You just people coming from all over the place. They come and they go, and you don't really build a lot. It's hard to have a lot of. I'm not saying they don't have them, but out here just felt more of like community. A lot of people were born and raised, still live here. A lot of churches out here to pick from. Just like little things that I just didn't see a lot in California. It's like, man, it just reminded me of growing up.
Yes.
I moved a lot of places, but when I was growing up, that's what it felt like. You would know the people at Safeway or wherever you shop at, or the post office, etc. It just felt familiar.
Yeah, very, very traditional, and we love that. Because it does remind you of the old days when you were a kid. When you could just go to your friend's house and knock on the door, or just even go through the door and
like, here,
where are you?
Ride a bike. With your friend, like LA, get out of here. San Francisco, probably even worse.
Or we would be out till like 2 a.m, and like my mom's screaming down the street, for me to come home. And our neighborhood's like that. You hear the kids; they're out there. They walk to school by themselves, which is unheard of.
Yep.
Like you can't do that in California, bro. When I see these kids walking to school by themselves, I'm like, that's based. Yeah. That's based. Because what's going to happen here, bro. You touch one of the kids, you're going to get shot, bro. You know what I mean? And someone's going to shoot you. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah. I love that too. But it's great. And even my, the other day, because we got our baby golden retriever. Oh, he's 70 pounds, 11 months.
Hell of a baby.
Yeah, dude. And he has friends now, like human friends. Because when my wife walks him around the neighborhood, all the kids are like, "Oh my gosh," And my wife was like, "Oh, if you guys ever want to see him, just come knock on the door, and we'll let you pet him." And now every day they're knocking on the
That's nice.
like he's he's a little kid, like he's a child, dude. Can he come out and play? So it's just you're not gonna get that in California.
No, it's a different. World.
Maybe Northern California, but
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe some spots, but yeah,
very nice.
That's wild. Well, just thinking about kind of. To go back, I just want to talk about the border for just 2 seconds, just because we do live in Phoenix. It is getting a little crowded here, and I just keep seeing, obviously everything going on in the Middle East. But, you just keep seeing these articles, millions of people coming in across the border. Oh, if they found 100 Iranians, then that means 1,000 came through, right? If they found 50 Palestinians, 1,000 came through. And it's just really scary as, we're fighting these wars around the world, but we're not protecting our back door. And I'm not telling you anything, obviously, you don't know. Yeah. But it's just, I just like to say it out loud when people, when we do these podcasts, just to remind people, like, this stuff is happening. And it is an invasion at our border. And the idea that we, are more worried about other countries and funding them and protecting them, rebuilding them, and we have all this homeless and all this crime and just, it's kind of weird. So I just didn't know kind of if how you feel about it. I know obviously you probably hate it, but what can we do?
Yeah, well, I think it's easy. I think it's as easy as cutting as much foreign aid as we possibly can.
Yep.
Because we are getting gutted like a freaking fish.
Yep.
They tell us we're in $30 trillion of debt.
Yeah.
That's just what the government is telling you.
It
It has to be something even worse with these multi-trillion-dollar wars in the Middle East, and all we have, to show for it is Biden's botched withdrawal, leaving tech and armory behind for another one, right? Yeah. And
leave all the weapons over there and then try to take them away from us.
Yep. On top of Ukraine, on top of funding. I mean, Biden's Oval Office address the other day, he comes out and says, if Putin decides to move against any member of NATO, like we are ready, like just straight up, we're ready for World War III. Yeah. We're ready. And
chomping at the bit.
He says it so casually, right? Yeah. And we know he's a puppet, but I think Americans have to ask themselves, can you afford your groceries? Can you afford your gas? Can you afford to have another kid? Can you afford to pay your personal debt? Can you afford your own personal finances, your car payments, your mortgage? Where are you at financially right now? Obviously, a lot of people are falling out of the middle class and they're plunging into poverty, right? Even $100K a year is like not enough.
When we were kids, I used to think that if I could make
$100,000,
like,
oh my God,
I could buy a $50,000 Mercedes.
I'm sad.
Nothing.
Like, I'm sad. Nothing. But I think Americans need to ask themselves, because I could come out and say America first, cut foreign aid, Israel, Iran, Palestine, Ukraine, now. Rebuild this country for at least 12 months. Yeah. Can we at least have that, Can we at least put ourselves first for 12 months? And I understand all the religious implications when it comes to Israel, but that's like I did a whole 3-hour episode on that. You guys can go watch that on Rumble. I'm not going to do that here. But, you have to practically ask yourself, if I can't afford to even pay my own bills and my own debt, there is no way in hell that I can afford to pay for another 2 wars simultaneously in Ukraine and now another one in the Middle East. And we haven't even paid off the last one.
Correct.
In Afghanistan and Iraq, and probably even the one before, and the residuals in Vietnam as well. So like, I just feel like this happens on both sides, where you have people that refuse to just be honest with themselves. And I like to put people in a corner and be like, all right, dude, you love Israel so much. I get it. They're God's people. I understand that. Bless Israel. God will bless you. Curse Israel. God will curse you. But why does that always mean money? Right. Are you superficial? Yeah. You can't just pray for the people of Israel that they'll be saved. It's always about money, isn't it? Huh? And I always say, well, if you love them so much, join the IDF and get on a plane and go
fight,
go die for Zion, dude. Yep. Mm-hmm. Or the other side, you love Palestine. You feel so bad for the Palestinian children. I get it. War is hell. That people are seeing war for the first. Like, I've watched people die. I'm not a combat vet, but like after watching Kyle shoot and kill someone right before me, I'm like, whoa, this is not a video game, bro. You know what I mean? Like. But when people see it for the first time, like, you're kind of like, whoa, this is gnarly, dude. This is like a human life. And a lot of people are seeing war for the first time on social media, on Twitter. So they kind of like it pulls them emotionally when you see videos of, I've seen more videos of Palestinian children than Israeli children, to be honest with you guys. Just saying. But there's propaganda on both sides. The point is, if you love either side so much, join the IDF or join Hamas and go die. That's where go join the Ukrainian army and go join the Ukrainian Nazis and go fight for Zelensky. How about that, right? Yep, exactly. And then come back and tell me you're such a good person, and then put your damn Ukrainian freaking flag in your bio, and we'll see how that goes for you.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Those are the questions. I feel like for me, it's more effective to just like ask that. Like, are you willing to do that? No? Yep, okay, no. Then can you just stop talking, please? Yeah. Can you stop virtue signaling, please? Because we all know you're not going to do a damn thing.
Yep.
So stop trying to lead us further into debt.
Yes.
And
Quit trying to
further
bankrupt us,
and
which
lead
we
our
already are.
children into more death and destruction while our country is completely falling apart. So
Because no other country's going to write us a check.
no,
You know, it ain't going to happen in reverse.
no. And I always tell the Christians, dude, you know, God is more than capable of taking his own care, his own people.
Yeah.
God doesn't need me. If you think God needs you to take care of Israel, you're like, okay, dude. Wow. All right.
Wow, big head.
Wow. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if it comes to, I got to take care of my wife. I got to take care of my family. I got to take care of my country. We got to rebuild things here. I mean, our military is all gay and woke and getting gutted like a fish as well. They've defunded the police. They've infiltrated police departments. They've weaponized all our intelligence agencies. The Fed is out of control. The interest rates are out of control. We are economically destabilized. I just don't understand how people that's why when you hear guys like Lindsey Graham, like, we're going to bomb Iran. It's like, what do you mean what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have kids, does he?
I don't think so.
I don't think he
I don't think he
does.
does. And it kind of makes sense because
Yeah.
I think he's in the
future.
closet. Lindsey Graham.
I think so too.
I think
A lot
he's
of
in the
people think,
closet.
yeah, I think
Which is fine, but
I think it's just, dude, just another gay guy that just wants to, plunge everyone into death.
I don't see things getting better until you literally clean house of the entire Congress. Everybody A to Z. I think you have to start this over. Yeah. Completely.
Total reformation.
Total.
Yeah. It's very similar.
Metastasized to everywhere, It's just not one thing. It's just all these agencies, you look what they did with their healthcare, financial, education system. You always hear nobody could beat America. The only way to beat them is from within.
Yep.
And they're doing it, and I don't know that we're winning. I feel like right now we're losing. Yep. So it's pretty scary.
No, it's happening. And I'm really critical of Elon Musk, but I do feel like his approach to Twitter is appropriate to the country.
Right. Can 80% of
just total purge, reformation, and I'm not saying like violent, insurrection. No, I'm just saying, it needs to go in that direction of just mass, firings and purging but there's also like the psychological and spiritual aspect of things where there is a majority of the country that thinks AOC loves them. You know what I mean? That thinks Joe Biden's just a nice old guy, right? So there's that too, where, I hate to say the word reprogramming or deprogramming because it sounds very commie, but there's an aspect of the psyche of people's minds that needs to change. That's what a red pill is. You know what I mean? Right. Like there's an aspect of, the government doesn't care about you. Like Joe Biden's not losing any sleep over you. No. Lindsey Graham isn't up at 3 a.m. wondering if, Jack in Illinois is able to pay his bills.
Right.
Come on, dude. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't understand how people have gotten to this place where they actually have convinced themselves that. And I think it's by design. I think it's very convenient for the deep state. I think it's what they want. I think it's what they need. They need a mindless society that doesn't think for themselves, that are slaves, that can be manipulated and told what to believe, when to believe it, how to believe it, why to believe it. And that's essentially where we are. It's like in 1984, like in real life.
I mean, we have people, sitting in the middle of roads, blocking roads, thinking it's going to help the climate. Mm-hmm. Right? This is the madness we live in. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Wearing shoes with rubber soles. Clowns. Getting on the bus, get out of here. So wild. It's just like, even like the globalists, I just always keep thinking, they want less population. They want a depopulation, and it's just so scary to think,
And it's real. There is a satanic element in government. It's very real. We were just talking about it with Dr. Kent.
Dr. and Pastor
Hovind.
Kent Hovind, yeah. Dr.
He was a cool guy. Yeah, Dr. Dino. I ordered his stuff, by the way.
Yeah, you see it. You see it in Hollywood. You see it in politics. You see it in culture. Mm-hmm. You see it in music industries, in the arts industries. You see it everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. You'll see the fingerprints of Luciferianism and Satanism. Yep. You'll see these things spread out throughout time as well. And I think one of the craziest, I like to say the craziest, is you guys remember Kat Von D, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
She became a born again Christian, denounced witchcraft and the occult.
Yeah, she was into that stuff,
dude. And you gotta ask yourself, You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know it's fully real, but a lot of people, they see that and they're like, wait, I thought that wasn't real.
These spirit cooking events, just Google like Gwen Stefani and Lady Gaga and Tony Podesta, right? John Podesta's brother. They're at these spirit cooking events, dipping a spoon into what's supposed to be blood. It's like, is that blood? Is that really a dead body there?
Right.
It's like very convincing. And this is what these people do on the weekend.
But even just, like you always think, witchcraft growing up, it just makes me think of Halloween, which we're doing right now. And it just almost as a joke. But even like Megan Fox, she's like, I'm going to put some spells on you because you're mad that all 3 of my kids are, they're going to change genders. Like, what are the odds of that? Like,
And she's open about her and MGK drinking each other's blood.
Yeah. And it's like,
that's totally normal.
There is a good versus evil, happening. It is real. The Bible is real. These things happening are real. There are evil forces and good forces, right? And it's just since the beginning of man, there's been this epic battle. But we're living through some very interesting times now.
I remember it reminds me of this story when I went to the White House in 2019 to meet Trump. There's a lot of evangelical, community, like Latinos and pastors, and I remember our connect, one of his girls, or not like his daughters, or one of his women, whatever, you know what I mean? Workers, female, whatever, in the administration. I want to be respectful to her, she was our connect, and she was the one that, really got us connected and inside with the, the behind the scene tour, along with, meeting him in the speech and all that, and making sure we got all our information in for the Secret Service and all that. And I remember they were talking to us, and they were saying, it's a really sensitive weekend because Trump is also doing like some kind of prayer evangelical event. Something was going on. I don't know if it was at the White House or he was partaking in it in DC. There was some kind of Christian prayer thing going on the same time we were out there. They're saying it's a really interesting, sensitive time because the Secret Service is kind of on high alert. Because we were all wondering why they seemed a little more on edge when we were there. And she was saying, they have legitimate intel that they're real witches, occult organizations showing up to DC to publicly proclaim like hexes, curses on Trump, his children, Melania. Like they had it all listed out. Like it was like,
wow,
like
they're taking it seriously.
As if it was like Al Qaeda. Like they knew who it was and the threats. Like they viewed it the same way, which I thought was based.
Yeah,
like imagine like an administration. Like, all right, we got some Satanists.
Yeah,
like we gotta get the Christians out here. You know what I mean? Like I get the chills saying that. You know what I mean? Like that's how the administration was. It was crazy, dude. Like he said some weird things about Christianity that I could debate theologically, but his openness to it is night and day compared to like an Obama or Biden or anything else I think we'd get right now.
Yeah.
And I've seen it, but it reminds me of that because it was weird. I was like, what? This is the kind of stuff the Secret Service is like
thinking about,
like, you know what I mean? I'm like, whoa, that's gnarly.
Yeah, they're taking it serious.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think about that.
Interesting. But yeah.
Cool, man.
Very cool.
Well,
anything else?
Is there anything else you want to touch on? I know. We could do this for hours.
Yeah, we could talk all day.
It's your show. I'm on your show now.
But no, I think we touched on everything.
Yeah. Awesome you came in, man. Yes. We're so glad you made it. It's our honor,
Get to come in live, which is really the cool thing,
Yeah.
Like I love going on the show and vice versa, but just actually meet you in person.
I like it live more.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get you guys in my studio.
Yeah,
soon
absolutely. You let us know.
Yeah, we'll do it because we're all here in the same hood.
Yep. Might as well.
It's easy. You don't have to get on a plane.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that, huh?
No, for sure. For sure.
When did it actually when did it stop?
It stopped, I want to say kind of mid-end 2021. No. Mid-end 2022.
Okay.
Is when it was.
Just one time you got a ticket and you finally you're like, oh, I got my boarding pass. Yep. I did it. I'm off the list.
Yeah, I remember I was getting ready. I had to go, because we had it down to a system. I had to go to the airport like 3 hours early. I show up to the airport, and this one time my wife dropped me off, and I got my boarding pass. I get on. I'm like, hey, can you come pick me back up? Because I could fly again, apparently.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be here for 3 hours. Let's go get something to eat.
Exactly.
So ever since then, it stopped.
Good. Good. I'm curious what changed, but
I don't know. I'll
Take a
never know.
vacation.
We'll
Go take
it.
a vacation somewhere.
Yeah. I'll never know, but we'll see.
Yeah. You know, the only scary thing would be like, it's just scary to think, okay, what if I leave the country? They, pull something and make it hard for me to get back to my family. Is what I'd always be worried about with that.
That would be gnarly,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be surprised.
We'll help you get in through the border.
Yeah,
That's the easiest way. I mean, all I got to
take
do
it
is
to
just
TJ
walk
and-
over.
Yeah.
I'll pick you up in El Paso.
Yeah, that's easy. I mean, who's gonna get stopped now? I mean, that would actually be a funny skit for like one of my shows, actually. Like Americans coming through the border and
Yeah.
getting stopped and deported. That'd be funny. Yeah.
Turn around.
Just like, you just almost do a show and just, go down there and just be like, hey, can I just walk across? Like, how easy is this? You have your passport in your back pocket just in case, but just
It is. You can go down. You can go down to Yuma right now, and it's literally just like I've got the footage. It's just like a little corner. You walk around the corner. You're out. You're in. You're out. You're in.
Gosh.
Have you guys been down there?
No,
I haven't.
Oh,
no.
you guys got to.
No, I mean, I drive like,
Maybe we'll go check it out.
I've gone through it, the actual border crossings, but,
No, I'll send you the coordinates. I'll send you the coordinates in Yuma. It's nuts.
I'm going to go put some barbed wire fence around it.
Yeah. No, you'll get in trouble. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy? You will literally get arrested for that.
That's
like
wild.
if you
They'll
try
come and
and
cut it?
stop illegals getting into the country, you will end up in prison while they come
How
in.
sick is that? They got
That
more
is-
rights than we do.
Yeah.
This is
wild.
this is the country.
Insane,
This is the
dude.
state of the country.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Nuts.
fun. It's gonna be great. I can't
Nuts.
wait.
Well, thank you, Drew.
Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Love you guys.
Appreciate you.
Always great.
Yes, please watch Drew on Rumble. He does a bunch of other podcast shows. I know that you're.
Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter, Getter, Truth Social, @DrewHLive. Check out my show that's sponsored by Midas Gold Group. Drew Hernandez live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rumble.com/Drew Hernandez. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you.